Heraclitus, Heraclitus of Ephesus, Heraclitus, glory of Hera, 535 to 475 BC, around 500 BC, was an ancient Greek pre-Socratic Ionian philosopher and a native of the city of Ephesus, which was then part of the Persian Empire. His paradoxical philosophy and appreciation for wordplay and cryptic utterances has earned him the epithet the obscure since antiquity. He wrote a single work, only fragments of which have survived, increasing the obscurity associated with him. Heraclitus has thus been the subject of numerous interpretations. According to the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, Heraclitus has been seen as a material monist or a process philosopher, a scientific cosmologist, a metaphysician, and a religious thinker, an empiricist, a rationalist, a mystic, a conventional thinker, and a revolutionary, a developer of logic, one who denied the law of non contradiction, the first genuine philosopher and an anti intellectual obscurantist. Heraclitus was of distinguished parentage, but he eschewed his privileged life for a lonely one as a philosopher. Little else is known about his early life and education. He regarded himself as self-taught and a pioneer of wisdom. He was considered a misanthrope who was subject to depression and became known as the weeping philosopher, in contrast to the ancient philosopher Democritus, who was known as the laughing philosopher. Heraclitus believed the world is in accordance with logos, literally word, reason, or account, and is ultimately made of fire. He also believed in the unity of opposites and harmony in the world. He was most famous for his insistence on ever present change, known in philosophy as flux or becoming, as a characteristic feature of the world, an idea expressed in the sayings, "No man ever steps in the same river twice," and Pantare, everything flows. His use of fire may have been a metaphor for change. This changing aspect of his philosophy is contrasted with that of the ancient philosopher Parmenides, who believed in being and in the static nature of the universe. Both Heraclitus and Parmenides had an influence on Plato, who went on to influence all of Western philosophy. Life. The main source for the life of Heraclitus is the doxographer Diogenes Laertius. The author of Charles Khan questioned the validity of Laertius's account as a tissue of Hellenistic anecdotes, most of them obviously fabricated on the basis of statements. In the preserved fragments, the stories about Heraclitus could be invented to illustrate his character as inferred from his writings. Historians are uncertain of the dates between which Heraclitus was active. Diogenes Laertius stated Heraclitus flourished in the 69th Olympiad between 504 and 501 because BC. But most historians believe Heraclitus was older than Parmenides, whose views constitute a critical response to those of Heraclitus, though the reverse is also possible and it remains a subject of debate. Heraclitus refers to older figures such as Pythagoras and is silent on Parmenides, who possibly refers to Heraclitus. Birth. Heraclitus was born to a Greek aristocratic family, 535 BC in Ephesus, presently Ephes, Turkey, in the Persian Achaemenid Empire. His dates of birth and death are based on a lifespan of 60 years, the age at which Diogenes Laertius says he died, with his floruit in the middle. Heraclitus's father was named either Blosson or Heracon. Diogenes Laertius says Heraclitus abdicated the kingship, Basileia, in favor of his brother, and Strabo confirms there was a ruling family in Ephesus that descended from the Ionian founder Androclus. According to Strabo, this family maintained its titles and could sit in the chief seat at the games, along with other privileges. The extent of the king's powers is unknown. Ephesus had been part of the Persian Empire since 547 BC and was ruled by a satrap governor who remained a distant figure. Cyrus the Great allowed the Ionians considerable autonomy. Childhood. Diogenes Laertius says Heraclitus used to play knucklebones with youths in the great temple of Artemis, the Artemisium, one of the largest temples of the 6th century BC and one of the seven wonders of the ancient world. When asked to start making laws, he refused, saying the Politeia constitution was ponera, which can mean either it was fundamentally wrong or that he considered it toilsome. Two extant letters between Heraclitus and Darius the First, which are quoted by Diogenes Laertius, are later forgeries. Laertius says Heraclitus was wondrous from childhood. According to Laertius, Sotion said Heraclitus was a hearer of Xenophans, which according to Laertius contradicts Heraclitus' statement he had taught himself by questioning himself. Burnet states Xenophanes left Ionia before Heraclitus was born. Laertius says as a boy Heraclitus had said he knew nothing, but later claimed to know everything. He heard no one, but questioned himself. Misanthropy. Diogenes Laertius relates Heraclitus had a poor opinion of human affairs, stating the mysteries practiced among men are unholy mysteries. Timon of Philos is said to have called him a mob reviler. Heraclitus was not afraid of being a contrarian, saying on one occasion, corpses are more fit to be cast out than dung. Heraclitus was not an advocate of equality, expressing his opposition in the statement, "One is 10,000 to me if he be the best." He is generally considered an opponent of democracy, though he believed all men have a claim to self ascertainment and sound thinking, and thinking is common to all. Heraclitus stressed the heedless unconsciousness of humankind. He asserted the opinion the waking have one common world, but the sleeping turn aside each into a world of his own, idios cosmos, private world. He also stated, hearing they do not understand, like the deaf, of them does the saying bear witness. Present they are absent. He also compares the ignorance of the average man to dogs. Dogs also bark at what they do not know. He advises, let us not conjecture randomly about the most important things, and said a fool is excited by every word. Heraclitus criticized Hesiod, Pythagoras, Xenophane, and Hecataeus for lacking understanding despite their educated positions, and has the most scorn for Pythagoras. According to Heraclitus, men that love wisdom must be inquirers into very many things indeed. He also stated the knowledge of the most famous persons, which they guard, is but opinion. Among notable individuals he criticized are Homer and Archilochus, both of whom he thought deserved to be beaten. The only man of note he praises is Bias of Priene, one of the seven sages of Greece, who is known for the maxim most men are bad. This is evident from Heraclitus's remark, for what thought or wisdom have they? They follow the poets and take the crowd as their teacher, knowing not that the many are bad and few good. Heraclitus hated the Athenians and his fellow Ephesians, wishing the latter wealth in punishment for their wicked ways. The Ephesians, he believed, would do well to end their lives, every grown man of them, and leave the city to beardless boys. For that they have driven out Hermodorus, the worthiest man among them, saying, We will have none who is worthiest among us, or if there be any such, let him go elsewhere, and consort with others. According to Laertius, this culminated in misanthropy. Finally, he became a hater of his kind, misanthropy, and wandered the mountains, making his diet of grass and herbs, illness and death. Heraclitus' life as a philosopher was interrupted by dropsy, for which the physicians he consulted were unable to prescribe a cure. Laertius lists several stories about Heraclitus' death. In two versions, he is cured of dropsy and dies of another disease. In another account, he buried himself in a cowshed, expecting that the noxious damp humor would be drawn out of him by the warmth of the manure, while another says he treated himself with the liniment of cow manure, and after a day prone in the sun, he died and was interred in the marketplace. According to Neathus of Cyzisus, he was devoured by dogs after smearing himself with dung. According to historical research, Heraclitus died from dropsy after 478 BC. According to Burnet, Heraclitus said, FR 68, that it was death to souls to become water, and we are told accordingly that he died of dropsy. He said, FR 114, that the Ephesians should leave their city to their children, and FR 79, that time was a child playing draughts. We are therefore told that he refused to take any part in public life, and went to play with the children in the temple of Artemis. He said, FR 85, that corpses were more fit to be cast out than dung, and we are told that he covered himself with dung when attacked with dropsy. Lastly, he is said to have argued at great length with his doctors because of FR 58. For these tales, see Diogenes IX 3-5. Heraclitus's books. Heraclitus is known to have produced a single work on papyrus. The title is unknown. According to Diogenes Laertius, Heraclitus deposited in the book in the Artemisium as a dedication. As with other pre-Socratic philosophers, only fragments of his writings survive in quotations by other authors. In the case of Heraclitus, there are more than 100 of these catalogued using the Diels-Kranz numbering system. Laertius also states Heraclitus's work was a continuous treatise, but was divided into three discourses: one on the universe, another on politics, and a third on theology. Theophrastus says, in Diogenes Laertius, some parts of his work are half finished, while other parts made a strange medley. The work's opening lines are known, proving it was a continuous work. Aristotle quotes part of the opening line in the Rhetoric to outline the difficulty in punctuating Heraclitus without ambiguity. He debated whether forever applied to being or to prove. Sextus Empiricus, in Against the Mathematician, quotes the whole passage. Of this logos being forever, do men prove to be uncomprehending, both before they hear and once they have heard it? For though all things come to pass in accordance with the Logos, they are they are like the unexperienced experiencing words and deeds, such as I explain when I distinguish each thing according to its nature and show how it is. Other men are unaware of what they do when they are awake, just as they are forgetful of what they do when they are asleep. Heracliteans. Many later philosophers in this period referred to on nature, Charles Kahn states, down to the times of Plutarch and Clement, if not later, the title book of Heraclitus was available in its original form to any reader who chose to seek it out. Laertius comments on the notability of the text, stating the book acquired such fame that it produced partisans of his philosophy who were called Heracliteans. Prominent philosophers identified today as Heracliteans include Cratylus and Antisthenes, not to be confused with the Cynic.